Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. And so many people always, want to hear real world experiences of what people, how they went through this and kind of the changes it made. And it's great having you guys here because you did the whole family, right? You got both husband and wife, you got the daughter that did it. So obviously all had different things are really kind of optimizing in the brain. And so maybe you can start, Tanya, talking a little bit about kind of, your experience with that.
Absolutely. So the way it initially started is our daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, anxiety, she has dyslexia. So even she started high school, she was like in the bathroom having an anxiety attack, didn't want to come out, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how is she going to navigate this? A dear friend of ours, Brenda, her daughter, had done it after being in a horrific car accident and having severe concussion. And she said it literally saved her. Her daughter couldn't come out of a dark room, couldn't do school, couldn't do anything. And I almost get, I get goosebumps because she started crying when she shared this with me. She said, Tanya, it saved her life, literally. And I was like, okay, I want to do this.
And what is this?
Yeah, what is
and
this?
what is this?
It's always the question.
Yeah,
right?
What is it's non-invasive. So we came in, we got Ava mapped. So Ava, unfortunately, fell off a changing table at 13 months old, landed right here, and at 8 years old, slid in a box down the stairways, was having fun until she got stuck and slammed right here. So both of those concussions showed up in bright red on the scan. So right there you go, okay, this isn't like they know and this and that, it's science, right? It shows. So we began the treatments from there, and I would notice that Ava would be exhausted initially after. I would get her in the car and she would just fall asleep. And as you explained, it's because the brain is being retrained and it's removing that trauma.
Right.
So as time went by, we noticed that as much as situations would happen that in the past would be level 10, oh my God, even small minor things, she was having a more normal reaction to it. And it was really, really beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's not that you don't have a reaction.
Right.
It just took a lot longer to get there if you got to that freak out point as well.
More age appropriate reaction.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Right.
So that was a and we both saw it. And again, I think it's hard to see your progression and how this really does work on the mind from internally.
Yeah.
It's more the external.
Exactly.
And because our whole family did it, Tanya and I could see our daughter, and then my wife and daughter could see for me, and it really you kind of sit back and go, oh, you're right. I probably would have been really upset at that,
right?
Right. And it's not that much anymore for me anyway. I had really high anxiety in this moment.
Yeah.
Life happens, and those things again, they don't go away.
Right.
But from my personal take is I was having sleepless nights with anxiety and really struggling with things that I couldn't control, and I knew I couldn't control, but I wanted to control.
Right.
And usually around 3 a.m, that was when I started controlling things. And so that was my wake up, and I have to say it literally is gone. I mean, I sleep through the night. Things still happen in life, but I don't have the same anxiety around it, or I don't even acknowledge it. Like, it's just normal.
You're not being triggered.
Yeah, I'm not being triggered by it. It's just, okay, I can't do anything about this now, and we'll move into the next day and see what brings.
Right. Isn't it amazing how sleep is such a foundation?
Oh yeah.
You remove sleep or lessen the quality of sleep. So many people think, oh, sleep's my best quality because I can sleep 12 hours and still feel tired. That's a problem too, right?
Yes.
Just like you, sleeping less time and waking up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
The quality of the sleep is so important.
It's very important. It's fascinating to me how doing the brain performance manifested in each of us differently. For me, you and I were talking about, I'm a coach, we're talking about working together, and I was like, well, I saw the results of my daughter, should I do this? And same thing, the first one I did, which I'll never forget, was 9 o'clock in the morning. I had had a good night's sleep. I went out to my car, put the seat back, and slept for 30 minutes.
Right.
I was out, and I was like, wow, that's really
Right.
interesting. I'm not a high anxiety person, overreactive person, so I thought, how is this going to manifest with me? I too had had a concussion, went through the windshield of a car when I was 21, and various other things, but the way I notice it now, I get more done in 1 week or 1 month than I used to in 6 months or a year. And it's very like, none of it, it's just like, boom, okay, get that done, boom, move to this, and it's very, and it's not this, okay, I gotta get that, I don't go into those modes, or I will say every now and then if I'm aware that it's showing up in me,
Right.
because that's normal human behavior, I can bring myself back out of it very quickly, whether it be through breathing exercises or taking a moment or grounding myself, whereas before it would get a hold of me.
Right. Right.
So that is not happening
I
anymore.
love that. And I love how you talked about, breathing exercises, grounding, those type of things too, because this is not a fix-all. It doesn't make your brain perfect, right? I always say that this kind of unlocks your brain, allows your brain to shift appropriately,
Yes.
so that now you can use skills and strategies to be able to do things.
Right.
I always say if we were, the ones training an F1 driver, our job would be to make sure that stick shift shifts perfectly,
Yes.
so that whatever gear they want, they can go into, right?
Yes.
If that gear is sticking in third gear, as they're going through it, their skill now is being impeded. It's not able to use their skill, and that's where sometimes therapy and strategies don't seem to work. It's because there's physiology getting in the way.
Right.
And once you get that shifting, things like sleep is not you shouldn't need a strategy to sleep, right? You should be able to sleep through the night.
Correct.
So that you fix and it goes through. But some things like stress and anxiety, you'll still have outside factors that get us stressed in the day.
Absolutely.
But being able to take one deep breath sometimes just brings it right back down afterwards.
Yeah.
Versus when that physiology is there, you can take all the deep breaths, you can have all the strategy, and it just almost winds you up more,
Yes.
thinking about it. Right.
So
Yeah.
true.
I still don't know how it works because again, for those who don't know, you're watching a screen and
Right.
literally a video game or a YouTube. In my case, I did a lot of
You did it remotely.
remotely.
Yeah.
And I'd watch YouTube videos and I would watch the game. So
Right.
you don't know that you're doing anything
Right.
other than watching the screen,
Right.
which was fascinating to me because, of course, my first 2 or 3 sessions that I did it, so skeptical
Yeah.
because it's like I thought I would be able to control these and move
Right,
it around,
right.
so that part of the science,
Yeah.
is way beyond my pay grade. But it's a very, very interesting because it's so non-evasive.
Right.
It's, for lack of a better word, such an easy tool
Right.
and training of the brain that again you don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
What's happening.
I always say it's very much like training your dog to sit with a treat, right?
Sure.
The dog doesn't even know what's happening. They don't know that they're supposed to sit. They don't know they're supposed to stand there.
Mhm.
They just know when I'm sitting, I just want that treat, and I'm getting that treat, right?
That's
And
right.
again, when they stand, they're not getting the treat, and they don't know what just happened. But then when they sit, they get the treat again. And after a while, they learn, while I'm in this state, I get the treat. When I'm in this state, I don't, right? And like that video game, people so much say, like us playing this video game, the video game's changing my brain. I always tell them the video game's like the treat, right? We always forget we have the sensors hooked up to the brain controlling the video game.
Right.
So that YouTube movie is only going forward when your brain is for, if it's too high, slightly relaxing. If it's too low, starting to build that area. This would be like if my arm was, weak and I put a sensor on my arm and say I couldn't see or feel my arm, but every time I barely flexed my arm, just barely, with, maybe I'd have to do this much before I'd notice it, but if I barely flex, it makes that go, and every time I relax, it makes it stop. Right, and that's what's happening when you're watching that and playing and stopping. But like you said, you don't have awareness of it.
No.
It's not like you're,
No.
I just concentrated, I didn't, or
Right.
anything like that. You're talking about 1%, these subtle changes in the brain. Because if we tried to make it where you'll get a reward when you focus and try and concentrate, the problem is you were using anxiety to try and concentrate, right?
Makes sense.
So you're using, it'd be like me doing a sit-up and I get a reward, but what if I'm using all my back muscles to do that sit-up? Versus if I put a sensor on my core And only when I use that core muscle to do it appropriately does it go forward, right?
Yeah.
So it's retraining, and that's it. It is cool that we can do it from 3, 4, 5-year-old kids,
Yes.
right? That are just interested in watching the video, but the video is only playing when they're going the right way, all the way to adults and older people, even with forms of early forms of dementia and stuff, to try and help slow down that progression and stuff too, because you don't have to be learning a strategy. You can just sit back and watch it, and as long as you're interested in it, that's the key. I always tell people, if the dog loses interest in the treat, you're not training them anymore, right? They have to stay interested. That's your only job, is to stay interested and kind of change it up every so often to make it a little interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I also love the fact that brain performance addresses not just physical trauma of a concussion, but also emotional trauma, generational trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma does live within our body, and if we don't address it and heal it,
Right.
we will not be living our best life. So the opportunity to get to do that, and and I love my husband so much. We've been married a long time, but like, he would live at level 8 for a lot of things where it was something kind of minor, and I'm like, okay, and he would have such a big reaction. It's not his fault. I'd be like, why are you reacting like this? He couldn't help it because his brain was living at level 8 naturally.
Exactly.
So it would hit level 10 like that.
Right. Yeah, I think you and I have talked before how this is, to me, it's like one of the best tools for like marriage counseling, right?
Yeah.
Just to understand each other's brain, because it's not about he does this, she does this, or trying to pick those things apart. It's like, oh, your brain starts out at level 8.
Yep.
So when you go level 8 to level 9, you only went up 1. That's a normal reaction.
Yeah.
And when yours goes from 1 to 2, you're like, why doesn't yours do the same as mine? And just understanding the default, how the brain's physiology works, gives you a little bit of understanding of that person, right?
Yeah, I think that is such a valid point, because we had a situation recently with Travel that he was level 8 when we walked in. And the upset that I have is the not understanding that that's where his brain was starting.
Right.
And giving grace for that's where it's starting. I have this expectation that he should still be starting here, and that's not accurate. We handled it and talked about it and all as well, but it's, again, I think this is such a beautiful tool for couples to really help heal those things within them that they don't understand in each other, because he, for the most part now, doesn't react at all like he used to on these smaller things. And I think I probably handle things better too, I hope. And Ava also, like, our daughter just recently did a Vogue fashion school for high school in New York. This is a girl who would not leave my side, and I'm dropping her out the door. I'm going, I'm not allowed to come in. Bye. She's like, bye, Mom. Navigating New York. I'm watching her on Life 360 going, oh my God, my daughter's in Soho. It's like crazy. Had the best time. I'm getting goosebumps. She was like, Mom, I want to go again. Grew as a human being, came home, and I just see this confidence. How beautiful. I don't know that she could have had that experience without doing this.
And I love that, like when you train a kid's brain early, like she had a concussion, right? It altered her physiology, stopping her from being able to do the things she wants to do. But when that happens, it also alters your self-esteem. It alters your social skills that you develop, especially in high school and stuff too. And when you can just get that shifting, she went right in and normally developed those social skills. It would have been easy for you guys to be like, you know what, if you have a test that day, just take a deep breath and just do it. It's not that hard, right? Just relax. It's just a test. It's not a big deal. You guys weren't putting pressure on her to perform at the highest levels. You just don't want her to be almost throwing up before a test, right? And, but when you see her brain and you see where she was, first of all, it gives you a lot more empathy for her. Like, it'd be like a kid with a broken arm and wondering why they can't lift something, right? Exactly. And so once you start seeing that physiology, you can understand where she's coming from, which also is great for her to have parents see what's going on and understand. Now, you can all day long say, I understand, it's okay, but when they see that you saw what's going on in their brain, and like you understand it, it makes a difference. But then when you can train it out to back, and again, this is not training, areas of the brain to go really high or way down. It's getting it unlocked so those neurons can shift up and shift down. I always get that thing. It's not, training your muscle up, it's getting your range of motion back. right?
Yes.
And same thing with your brain. You need to fire neurons up, and they need to come down to a resting state.
Yeah.
And then you're in control, right?
It's so true, and I know for me as a speaker and a coach, like even getting ready to step on a stage and speak, and a lot of people in the room, there used to be a lot of internal anxiety even doing that, and now I'm very methodical about the way I do things, being prepared, and it's lovely to have that aside.
Right.
So I can truly be present in the moment, say, wow, what a wonderful thing I get to do this, and get up on stage and have so much fun
Right.
delivering information that I know will help others.
Yes.
Instead of it being about me dealing with myself to get there. So
Exactly.
it really is, to me, and I'm very holistic, I know you are too, anything to stay away from medication that can get you where you want to be, living your best life. And also too, let's talk about, there's so much diagnosis in dementia these days, and Alzheimer's and early dementia, anything that can help prevent that. Why wouldn't you do it? You invest this money here versus the amount of money you're going to be investing, whether it be medication, scans, all the things in the future, God forbid, having to put someone in memory care of a home. Do this, and you really are living your best life.
Yeah, it lowers your risk factor. I mean, probably as much as any possible one thing can do. You know, a clean EEG, a normal EEG, is the equivalent of having a perfect EKG for your heart.
Amen.
Which you have the lowest risk factor for heart disease if you have that at that point in time. Same thing with an EEG. I mean, and this right here, you know, is, you know, James, your brain map. This was your initial one.
Yeah.
Right. And again, this blue is 2.5 standard deviations low. So it's about 95% too low of electricity, which, you know, if we zoomed in on that, that would be less connections between those neurons, right? It's not connected enough. It'd be like having a weak muscle. And what happens is, at first, you just push through that. You're just like, okay, I know I'm tired. I got to push through. I'm not getting sleep. Well, if those neurons that regulate your sleep are low, you're not even firing enough electricity to get up into the deepest stage of sleep. So you're staying mainly in light sleep, which you can wake up from all the time and then get back to sleep.
And
Right?
that's what
That
was
was
happening.
Right.
So what causes, I'm curious, a lower brain mass? Like what causes this?
So, I mean, there's many things. It's probably the one thing in neuroscience where we can't say exactly based on brain map because we don't know when it occurred. We don't know how long it's been there. Sometimes it can be concussions. We had a number of guys come from NFL teams this year that, you know, all had very low activity in certain areas, usually in the back of the brain, kind of more centralized like this, in the back, that, you know, could definitely be what for them was concussions. Sometimes it's a omega-3 deficiency. Omega-3s from fish oil are what make about 30 to 40% of those connections.
That's right.
So think of omega-3s kind of like what protein is to muscle. If you had hardly any, if you had one serving of protein per week, imagine what your muscles would look like, right?
Right.
You know, and then for other people, there is genetic factors that can cause that. Things called MTHFR, COMT, that we can, you know, test for and run and make sure, you know, that it's not, you know, that they might need certain forms, like more methylated forms of vitamins and stuff, that if you can't get, if your body doesn't break down raw foods into what you need, like folate and a methylfolate, the problem is that you could be eating perfectly and you're not getting the nutrients you need because of your DNA.
Got
right?
it.
So even if you're eating good, there could be a problem causing that.
Oh, that's
right?
interesting.
You know,
Okay.
and sometimes it's, you know, like I think, you know, for James, a lot of yours starts out with poor sleep. And then with poor sleep is the equivalent of getting no recovery between working out on your muscles. So imagine you're working out on a muscle, you get no recovery. You work out the next day, you get no recovery. What you're doing is breaking down a muscle, right? Because the time the muscle grows is in the recovery time. When you're working out, you're actually breaking it down,
Sure.
and then it needs to grow those connections. Well, when you're working all day and you're not getting the deep sleep, you're not growing those connections, and you're causing more stress because it's not growing those. Just like I would have more stress on that muscle the next day, and the next day I'm lifting the same amount and I'm getting more and more stress and I'm feeling more and more tired, and the same thing happens with the brain.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of this is sleep. So we're working with, you know, Oxnard Fire Department, Ventura, LA,
Oh my
a lot of
gosh,
these
yes.
places that, you know, first responders that, you know, their skin rhythms are all messed up because in their stressful jobs, they're doing
For
an
sure.
amazing job, We got to get these guys sleeping good, right?
Yeah.
Get them sleeping
There's a
good.
reason that it's a form of torture.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Sleep
It really
deprivation,
is.
It
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
can make you nuts.
And that's what, you talked about, you'd have a lot of anxiety too.
Yes.
There's so many people, and I'm sure you did too, anxiety about your sleep that night. Like, it's
Oh,
almost
sure.
like,
awful.
am I going to wake up and be up for 3 or 4 hours? It's
Oh, yeah.
miserable.
Yeah,
Right?
you
Yeah.
dread going
I
to
dreaded
bed.
I dreaded
Yes.
that 3 o'clock time frame.
Yep.
I was like, I don't want to go to sleep because I don't want that
Exactly.
Yeah.
3 o'clock. So yeah, it changed. That was the biggest self-reflection of the change, was
Yeah.
the amount of sleep that I was getting and not going into that worry. And my mom used to always say, it's the what ifs that get you. You
Yes.
know, thinking
Right.
about what if.
Right.
I don't think about the what ifs. I
Exactly.
really don't.
I can really attest to that, because even with the changes in the world and the economy and all the things going on, he's personally with work dealt with a couple things, and I was like, oh, here we go. And then he slept. I was
Yeah.
like, good job. Yeah.
Right.
So,
And
it
that's
really
what we
is
want. We
different.
want someone to be able to go into high stress mode when they need it. That's important. Acute stress is good. It
Yeah.
helps us get stuff done. It creates more
Wonderful.
urgency. We put more, effort into things and stuff like
Right.
that. But then at night, we should be able to shift it down. I always compare it to, someone running a marathon can stress their heart during the day, but then they need the recovery at night. They can go up and down, and that's how executives and stuff should be.
Yeah.
Being able to come all the way up and then come back down and get the recovery.
Yeah.
With it.
Well, and even a funny story, this morning our dog ended up in the emergency room. Everything went wrong. I think we each got maybe 3 hours of sleep last night, up all night. And in the past, I think we both would have been like, we can't do this. And I was like, we got the dog in. I was like, if I can get him out by 9:30, got home, I'm like, let's go, let's do it. And to be able to just come here and be present
Right.
here and let that go. And
Right.
I actually feel fine, even though
Right.
we didn't sleep much.
Yeah.
So I love how it's enabled me to, in the past, all the things that would possibly interfere with even functioning.
Mhm.
Now I'm able to go, you'll sleep tonight, you'll be fine, let's enjoy today, all is well.
Right. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. And James, here's your last, your third one.
Yeah.
Down here, right, which is all in the normal. I look at all that dark blue's completely gone. This color's all in the normal right here. All the green and white is absolutely perfect. This is a great, very green. So it actually strengthened it. You actually grew more connections, more dendrite connections between those neurons, which the more neurons that are connected together, the more fire together when you need it. So when you go to sleep, you have more neurons firing together, controlling that sleep. When you go to focus and deal with a stressful situation, you have more of these beta neurons firing together to handle that, which is like having more muscle strength when your job's lifting 20 pounds all day. The stronger your muscle are, the more it's like, that was no problem. That was no problem. I still have more reserve even at the end of the day. Where weak, it'd be like, by the end of the day, I'm exhausted.
Yep.
Those last few ones,
For
I'm
sure.
straining. I get home and I just need to sleep. I can't do anything else. It consumes you, and the same thing happens with the brain.
No,
Yeah.
this was the mapping was what really kind of gave me that, there is something that's happening,
Right.
because again, as you're progressing through the actual watching videos and things like that, it's a slow progression. But when we would start doing the mapping and seeing, the complete change, I'm a visual person, so seeing a visual of it,
Right.
it was like, wow,
Wow.
okay. that
And
makes-
a gold standard like EEG, right? A gold
Yeah.
standard like EEG that we use the same equipment that's used in every hospital. It's a National Institute of Health database that we use and everything too. So to see that objective change to the brain makes you also realize I'm not just having a good week. Actually, physiology changed and my symptoms changed, and we
Yes.
put those change together. It's really bringing. I think neuroscience is bringing objective science into the mental health side, right? Which there's no other medical specialty where we don't use imaging. Where we just guess based on symptoms.
Right.
We would never want an orthopedic surgeon taking a look at you and you telling them all about the pain you have, and them say, okay, I'm writing down 30 minutes worth of notes, and then tell you, okay, your diagnosis is pain, right? We would never put up with that. Yet
Yeah.
we do that with anxiety disorders, with depression,
Well,
with attention deficit.
We also do it in the mental health space,
Yeah.
even like with therapy, even coaches, it's like you have people thinking that they are diagnosing
Right.
someone. And the truth is, let's get a read on them.
Right.
Let's get some I love that it's science-based
Right.
because it's like 2 + 2 = 4 all day, every day. It's
Right.
never gonna shift, and that's this. You are looking at evidence,
Yeah.
actual evidence to show you, here is the roadmap we need to go. Then you couple that with therapy or
Yes,
coaching.
100%.
And now you have a very successful outcome.
Once that range of motion's going to those neurons, coaching works amazing. Therapy works
Yes.
amazing. Cognitive behavioral therapy works amazing. All these things, if you can't get into your cortex, cognitive behavioral therapy isn't going to work.
Right.
Because when that stress hits, I don't go there, I go to a different region of my brain, and now I can't think clearly to think about that strategy. But once
Connection
afterwards,
matters.
you still have to break habits, still have to
Oh, yeah.
learn different ways of doing things and and stuff. But it does give you the ability to. I always say what you probably know too, and with like coaching and with therapy, what we want is for people to get small wins.
Yes.
When they
yes.
do that strategy, they get this small win. They're like, "Wow, that worked." Now I just have to remember to do it again,
Yeah.
right? In this other circumstance.
For sure.
But when they try and they try and they try, and it's not working, they give up.
Yeah.
And it's not because the strategy didn't work. It's because physiology stopped them. from being able to
Exactly.
do it.
And then they continue with the behavior that they
Right.
don't want to be doing to begin with.
Right.
Well, and I also love for athletes, like we have someone who's going to come see you who races cars. And she's amazing, and I said it will improve your
Yeah.
performance as an athlete. So that's so key too, because again, athletes are amazing at what they
Right.
do with their bodies and all the training, but if there's something physiologically stopping them from reaching that next level,
Yeah.
this is such a worthwhile
Exactly.
investment.
Exactly. And for so many athletes, it's about, performance as far as their sleep, right? Because a lot of athletes are changing time zones back and forth,
Oh,
going
yes.
all over, and that's throwing off sleep. And if their sleep's not right, then no matter how great their skill is, racing, we've done a lot of NASCAR, even some F1 with Red Bull and stuff too. And, with that, these guys are amazing focus.
Okay.
But you're in a car that is hot as can be and vibrating and loud and inch from someone else or inch from a cement wall
Yeah.
and all these things. I mean, the amount of peripheral vision, maintaining all the focus, again, they're great on their own. All our job is to do is to get things out of their way from stopping, like sleep derails their perfect skill, right? Getting a little bit too much stress can derail their skill. We want to get them out of their head so their skill can just prevail and let them do what they want.
Yeah.
That's
So,
good.
perfect. Well, wonderful having you guys here. Appreciate
for
it.
having
Helps so
us.
much for people to see, real people that did this. You guys are real, right? You're not
Yes, we
AI,
are.
right? Perfect.
Real.
Just making sure.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for
again.
having us, Brian.